Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Krista Jones. I'm a member of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women. We are so excited today to present to you our presentation for geared towards high school students and their parents on Money Matters. We have two fabulous presenters with us today. We have Michelle Jefferson and Ed Williams, who will give you an interactive presentation on finances and what you need to do and to know to be prepared for not only finances now, but after college and beyond, because these are really important skills that you will take with you throughout life. You trust me on that one. So now I'm about to hand it over to them. Just give us 1 second and we will set up their presentation.
We on?
Yes.
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, so we are glad to have you on this webinar here, and we're going to try to have this to be interactive. And let me see here. Go to the chat here. Yeah, okay, there we go. Okay, good. Now I'm going to ask a question, and if you don't mind, just type your answers right there in the chat area. All right. How many of you make a budget? How many of you use a budget? Just say yes or no. Okay, let's see. Okay, all right, good. A few of you do. That's great. That's great. Okay. Um, in my experience, a budget is a roadmap to a certain destination. You can use it an analogy of traveling from point A to point B, or you might want to use it the analogy of a budget is a GPS. All right, so a GPS gives you directions and helps you get from point A to point B. A budget is the same thing in the financial industry, in your financial life. All right, so a budget is a way to get from overspending to underspending and undersaving to oversaving. So we're going to talk about the art of budgeting. And it is an art in a sense because everyone does not manage their finances the same. With a budget, you can kind of turn it into a science where the process of budgeting is repeatable every week or every day, every week, every month, every year. So in a sense, it is the art of budgeting as opposed to the science of budgeting. So we're going to go through some slides here and talk more about it. All right, the budgeting process. Here we're trying to make the budgeting process a science. Phase one, you assess your personal and financial situation, the needs, values, and life situation. Not all of us have the same needs. I'm sorry, all of us have some of the same needs. Not all of us have the same wants. Some of our values are not the same, and life situation is not the same. So we want you to be able to prepare a budget for all these things that come up in your life. Set personal and financial goals. Someone once said that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. All right. So you want to be able to set goals, both personal, career oriented, and financial goals. Then three, create a budget for fixed and variable expenses based on a projected income. All right. So even the person with the most income, uh, successful people create a budget, a spending plan or expense plan. All right, to see where their fixed and their variable expenses are, and when those things will appear in their financial year. Monitor your current spending or saving patterns. Okay, saving, monitoring it means looking at it, reviewing it periodically, whether you review it every week, every month, every quarter, every semi-annual, or every year. You have to monitor it uh, in order to see where you're going, what direction you're going, and how long it's going to take you to get there. All right. Compare your budget to what you have actually spent. A lot of times we find that people spend money, but they don't really go back to their budget and look at what they set down and put on paper or put in writing and see how they did. Uh, you got to do this. You got to compare what you spend against what your goals and objectives are. And then finally, phase 6, review financial progress and revise the budgeted amounts. Well, when you initially made that budget, you may have budgeted, let's say, $25 a week. Well, you're finding out that you're doing more than 25. Maybe you're doing 35 or 50. Okay. You may have to revise that budget in order to meet what it actually costing you to 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 maintain your lifestyle. And if you're revising it, that means you may have to look at your projected income and find out if your projected income is coming in like you thought it was going to come in. Okay. Um, so by answering yes or no, what do you think about these 6 phases? Do you think these are good things to do? Just answer yes or no for now. Okay. Some's yes, some I don't know. So, okay. Very good. Very good. Thank you all for providing that input. Okay. All right. Now, when we look at goal setting guidelines, and believe me, when I work with clients, we have some of the same issues with adults. So, you're not alone if you're going through this process. But the better you become at it, the better it'll be for you in adult life. You want to be realistic. All right, be realistic. Okay, a student working part-time is not likely to be able to afford a new car every couple of years, right? I mean, your whole focus right now is getting an education, studying, and making good grades so that you can matriculate out of high school into college or into a vocation or into a career. All right. You want to be specific. I want to save $5,000 for a down payment to buy a house, or for a down payment to buy a car, or for a down payment for my college education or my vocational school education or community college education. Okay, so that's specific. You set a target dollar amount, and you set what you're going to use that dollar for. Have a time frame. I want to pay off my credit card within the next 18 months. So there's your time frame in the next 18 months. You have something specific, you have something, you're being realistic. You're realistic from the standpoint that you know that you're not going to get a lump sum of money necessarily to pay off all your expenses at one time. So you manage it and monitor it out over a number of months. State the action to be taken. I want to start an automatic savings account with monthly withdrawals from my checking account. Okay. state the action to be taken. I want to start an automatic deposit saving account with monthly withdrawals from my checking account. Now that's realistic, that's specific, okay? And so you just have to put a time frame on it. Looks like we're getting some feedback on the call. Someone may have their speaker on, so just put yourself on mute, and so that we don't get all the feedback. So the time frame is what probably needs to happen on this particular statement is, I want to start an automatic saving account with monthly withdrawal. I want to start this in 2 weeks, or I want to start it next week. Okay, that would be a time frame. Okay. Let me ask a question, and you can just write a 1-word or 2-word, 3-word reply. Is there a goal that you have set for yourself in high school? Do you have a goal that you set for yourself in high school? So just, 2 or 3 words. Don't write a term paper. Just 1 sentence or 2 or 3 words. Okay. All right, good. I like those. Okay, now here's a way that you could set up a budget. Now, we say this is the art of budgeting because different people use different mechanisms for creating a budget. Now, I know you guys are in the technology age, and I know you use the internet a lot. You use your smartphones and your laptops and your tablets, that kind of thing. And so, here is a paper format. I mean, you can do this. There's apps out on the out in the different Microsoft Store or Apple Store or Google Store or whatever that could help you do this online or on your phone. But suffice to say that you have an income coming in from different sources, whether it's an allowance, whether it's from a part-time job, after school or during the summer or something. You have some income coming in. Maybe you get something from your parents or your grandparents. You have an income coming in. Now, what are you going to do with that income? All right, you should sit down and come up with a budget, and then maybe review that budget with your parents and make sure it's realistic. Okay, and work out the difference between your budget and what you actually have on the income side. Now look at your expenses. All right. Now you may not be able to plan out or think far enough out, say 6 months or a year, but maybe you can do this for a month. Your expenses for 1 month. Maybe you have a car that your parents have bought for you, and you are paying the insurance on it, or maybe you're having to put gas in the car, or whatever. Okay. Sit down and map that out, GPS that out for 1 month, and to see what your budget is, and then at the end of that month, determine what you actually spent. Now with the smartphones, you can put it on your calendar. You can put these data points on your calendar, and such that you're going to start on the 1st, and on the 30th, I'm going to come back and I'm going to revisit my budget and see what I spent versus what I took in. All right. Fix irregular expenses, things like savings, food, utilities. I don't know that you all are more concerned with utilities at this point, but you do want to have savings in there, and maybe you got food for going to the movies or hanging out with your friends. Okay. But in any case, write down everything that you that you spend your monies on. Make a category for it and identify what you spend your monies on. All right. Now, I want to ask a question. Do you think this is hard to do, uh, to set up a budget? Can I? Okay. Okay. Good. Good. Yeah. Believe it or not, though, some people do think it's hard to set up and maintain a budget, and those that don't do this find that they are overspending in a lot of cases and under saving. Right? But if you get into the habit of doing it, I give you an example, an analogy. Uh, it is said that Tiger Woods spent over 10,000 hours to become a professional golf player and became the best at it. You know, that came from practice, repetition, doing it over and over. You can become a expert at budgeting yourself by doing it over and over, practicing it, all right? Putting things down and tracking it and maintaining it. If you lose sight of that, then you will find yourself quickly just being out of keel with where your income is actually and your expenses are. You may be overspending and not have the income to cover that, and then you find yourself in debt. Okay. All right. So let's move on. All right. So here's some additional columns here that you might want to use for a budget. Bus fare. If you take the bus to school, you know, a lot of people, a lot of kids in some places um, have to pay for a bus fare to get back and forth to school. If you own a car, you're going to have some of these expenses, gas and oil, parking, repairs. And then, you know, if sometimes you're going to need medical expense, clothing, of course, we all need that, entertainment, household items, personal items, tuition, school expenses. So these are just some of the items, line items, or expense items that you can put down. I recommend if you spend money on something more than three or four times a month, you need to put it down as an expense item on your budget. Okay. So if you're finding yourself spending on some item that you don't have on the budget, then you need to put it down. Okay. All right. Let's go to the. Oh, I need help here. Looks like I lost my slides.
Oh, just click on here. Click.
Okay, there we are. There we are. Now I need to bring it up.
The projector down at the bottom. There, click there. Oh, this one. I think that's it. The 4 dots. Okay, go back to this one.
Okay, there we are. All right. So these are the items here that I suggest that at a minimum you have on your budget. Okay. Do you often wonder where your money goes at the end of the month? What you spent your money on, and by looking back, have you ever asked yourself, well, did I really need that item that I bought, or was it just something I wanted? So there's a difference between wants and needs. Okay, needs are those things that you have to have in order to live in this society. Okay, we all need food, we all need clothing, we all need shelter, we all need uh, transportation. Okay, so the need items versus the want. Well, I need a car, but do I need the most expensive car to get back and forth, you know, to school or back and forth to work? okay? Or do I just need a car to get me from point A to point B? A decent car, a car that's dependable, a car that is is not too cost not does not cost very much to maintain. So need versus wants. So that's going to be a key factor in budgeting. You're going to have to determine, do I need it? Is it something that I really need versus something that I just want? And when you get down to that, then you could begin to determine your savings plan. There's a spending plan, there's a savings plan. And your savings plan is one that will help you reach your goals. Your goals of graduating from high school, uh, matriculating in college, or matriculating into some vocational career. Uh, so so think about it: needs versus wants. Okay. All right. So I would like, if possible, for you all to write or in the chat, tell me what particular item that, give me 3 items that you would like to have on your budget that you don't see in the um, slides that I have put there. So could you just write 3 items, up to 3 items that you would like to have on your budget that's not shown on the budget that I've displayed? I'll give you about 30 seconds for that. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, time's up. All right. Phone bill. Yes, that would be an item that you would want to have on there. A phone nowadays is a must have, okay, especially for adults and folks at your age. So yes, that's one. Okay, do I have another one here? Okay. Yeah, okay. So great. That was a good example there. Okay. Um, a phone or a smartphone, or what I like to call it is my personal digital assistant, because a smartphone is more than just a phone anymore. It it's an assistant to me. It's a virtual assistant, and so I call it my PDA, the personal digital assistant. Okay, I think we just about come to the end of my section, and I'm going to turn it over to Michelle, and then we'll get back to uh, toward the end and kind of wrap up with some additional questions and answers. Let me just get you. All right, so bear with us as we move to the next PowerPoint presentation.
You know how to get that out. We're gonna X out. Oh, escape out, I think. Didn't you say escape? Am I missing something? Is there something up there that I can't see? I know you're covering it. Like, wait.
That's the chat box right there.
So it's not. Okay, bear with us. I thought it was
not engaging. So we're going to the credit one. Is that it? Yup. No. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
That's good. I said, yup. And I'm gonna need your help with the chat. All right. That was excellent, Ed. So as we transition into the credit, what did Ed say? What was the thing that he said? How many times, if you buy something more than how many times would you need to include it in your budget? What was that number? Let's see. How many times? All right. Excellent. Excellent listeners. So we're going into the credit component of the presentation, and I want to know how many of you have credit cards. Do any of you have credit cards? No. Do any of you have a checking card and use a debit card? Yes, yes, yes. Excellent, excellent. Okay, so let's go. We're going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of credit. Uh-oh, it's not going. Oh, I didn't engage. Gotcha. Okay, so advantages. You're able to buy needed items now. You don't have to carry cash. We are moving to a cashless society. As you know, well, the United States, this is a statistic, we are not on the forefront of cashless societies. You go to Europe and Korea and Japan and Asia and those places, they're doing everything, paying everything with their phones. They're not carrying cash. So you don't have to carry cash if you have a credit card or a debit card. Creates a record of your purchase. So you have an immediate record. If you have a dispute or something, or you need to prove something, you can go get your credit card statement and show I have purchased this. It's definitely more convenient than writing a check. Consolidates bills into one payment. Here are the disadvantages. When you have a credit card, so you can get a credit card, the credit card companies will say, oh, you can have 0% interest on your card for 6 months, but then it'll go up. What does that mean, interest on your credit card? It means you are paying to use that money. So if you buy a purchase and you pay it all, let's say you buy something for $50, you pay at the end of the month, you pay that in full, you will not be charged that interest cost. But if you don't, you will be charged the interest cost. So whatever the interest amount happens to be, it could be anywhere from 0% all the way up to, I've seen it as high as 35 and 38%, which is extremely high. So that's one thing to keep in mind. When you're going to look for a credit card, you want the one with the lowest interest rate. It may require additional fees. So some credit cards require an annual fee, and you'll have to pay like $100 a year to use it, in addition to the interest fees that you have. Financial difficulties may arise if one loses track of how much has been spent each month. It is easy just to go and take that credit card and charge. If you're not keeping track, now Ed went over budgeting, spending. As you spend, you also need to keep a ledger of everything that you spend, so you are aware of your what you're putting out, and that you don't spend more than you have. And it can cause you to be an increased impulse buyer. You see something, oh, I want it. You really don't have the money for it, but you have that credit card, so you buy it. As Ed presented in his presentation, if you're using your budget, you're setting aside money to make purchases for maybe something that you want to buy that you don't have all the money, that is the best way to do it. And we're going to go to the next slide. So what do banks, lenders, credit card companies look for when they're evaluating if they're going to give you a credit card or not? One, they're going to look at your credit history. Does it look like you are honest, reliable, and you pay your debts? So it will be, have you ever used credit before? Do you pay your bills on time? Do you have a good credit report? Can you provide character references? How long have you lived at your present job? And how long have you been at your present address? So the 3 C's are character, capital, and capacity. For capital, there'll be, what if you don't repay the debt? Do you have any assets that they can come back and make sure that they get money from you to pay the debt? Do you have a savings account? Do you have an investment account? Can you repay? Capacity is the 3rd C. Have you been working regularly in the occupation that is likely to provide income to support credit use? Do you have a steady job? What is your salary? How many other loan payments do you have? What are your current living expenses? What are your current debts? How many dependents do you have? Now, what I will say is the credit card companies make it extremely easy for you to get a credit card. So you can go online, fill out the information, and a lot of them have what is the household income, and you can put all that information in and submit for a credit card. Now, if you don't have credit, they'll say you don't have enough credit, and they'll want you to do something to establish credit. Is credit good or is credit bad? Tell me what you guys think about credit cards. Do you think they're good or do you think they're bad? Do you think using a credit card is a good thing or a bad thing? Anyone? Anyone? Okay, that's an excellent question. Okay, that's what I was going to say. How do you build credit when you're just starting out? Sometimes you can use like your utility, like your phone bill. If you're paying your phone bill, you can ask for that to be put on your credit report. Drawing a blank, give me another example, Ed.
If you purchased a car, if you're making a payment, maybe you bought a car with your parents, and your parents have you on the loan note. That would be a way to start credit. An inexpensive car, a used car, maybe doesn't have to be brand new. But that's one way. And if you don't, if a car is not the item,
the phone bill.
The phone
bill that you're paying is a really good way, and you can ask them to add that to your credit report and review it. Excellent question. So thank you, Jasmine, for that question. Trinity, you're right. It's good to have credit, but you have to be mindful. And actually, in this world today, it's kind of like if you don't have it, it's more challenging, but you must be really mindful of your student loans. So that's what it said. Is that a question?
Yes. Okay. Yes, your student loan could
okay.
be a credit item. Yes.
Yes, and it's really important to pay them timely. Okay, so we're going to go to the next slide. Gotta engage. Okay, so what is your responsibility when you're looking to get credit? Your responsibility as the borrower is only borrow what you can repay. What does that mean? So only charge on that credit card what you can be repaid. It's very important to read and understand your credit contract. So when you're filling the information out online, there's a lot of information in the small print. It's very important to understand that. So What do I mean by that? If if you make a payment late, a lot of times in that small print, it says, let's say you started out with a 12% interest rate. It says your interest rate will increase to 28 or 35%. In addition to that, they will charge you a $30 to $35 late fee. So, and you will find all of that information in the contract, and that's in that little print at the bottom. So it's really good if you understand that, because if you go over, it costs you money. You've worked hard for your money, and you don't want to have to pay to use your money more than you have to. So if for any reason you get into a position that you cannot pay your bills, your responsibility, your credit, is to notify your credit. Ideally, the best situation is to create that budget, that spending plan, and stay within that plan. But we do know tough circumstances do arise. If for any reason you lose your credit card, report it lost immediately, so that they will know that you're not making those charges. Never ever give your card number over the phone to anybody unless you initiated the phone call and are certain of the caller's identity and that they are a safe person and won't misuse your credit. Identity theft is really big, so it's really important to protect your credit card information. So these are laws that protect you as a consumer. I will go over them quickly, and then you can refer to them later and go into detail. The Truth in Lending Act of 1968, it makes sure that you are completely aware of what you're borrowing. If you get a loan for a car or a mortgage, it provides in detail how much you're borrowing and what that total cost of borrowing is by the end of your payment. Yes. Oh, okay. So I need to go quickly. So building a credit history. Somebody asked about that. Establish a steady work record. Pay your bills promptly. If you have a phone bill, then you can utilize the as I said before, you can utilize that to help you establish checking. Open a checking account. And make sure you do not bounce any checks. Open a savings account, as Ed was sharing on your budgeting. Put regular, each time you get paid, put something in your savings account. Apply for, apply for a local store credit card. If you happen to do this, you would need to pay that in full at the end of the month. Local store credit card, the interest on those are extremely high. And so that does help you establish credit, but I would be careful and be mindful of, if whatever you do, you're doing it to establish credit, and you don't want to carry a balance on that card, because it will cost you a lot of money. And as Ed shared with you before, get a cosigner like your parents. If they co-sign with you on a car loan and you pay the loan timely, that helps build your credit. This is what a credit report looks like. It has your personal identification information, your your employer information. Now, if you have any bad debt, like judgments, what's a judgment? If you haven't paid your debt timely, somebody takes you to court and files a judgment to get their money back. 3 minutes. Okay, I got 3 minutes. Collection accounts. And then at the bottom is where you have how they rate you. So if you pay your credit card on time, it is rated every month, and it shows that you pay on time. Okay, so I've run out of time, but did you have any questions? And I'm going to turn it back over to Ed. Did you have any questions? Because if there's something that we didn't cover, we can definitely follow up with you. Did you have any questions?
We did have a question that came through on an email, so let's just address that.
Oh, okay. Okay, what was the
Okay.
question on the email?
All right, so we know that there's been some emails going back and forth to the host of the webinar, and so one question that came through in the email was to speak to.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
gotcha.
All right, that's good. That's good. To speak to student loans and saving for college. Okay. You know, I don't know if you are aware that the amount of student loan debt in the United States is almost twice as much as the amount of credit card debt in the United States. So student loan is a big problem here in the United States. It's a big problem because when we go to college, we borrow money to go to college, but then a lot of times when we finish college, we don't get a job as soon as we would like to, or maybe the economy is such that we're not getting the expected annual income. But in any case, whatever the reason is, student loans can be a drag on your credit. It can be a drag on your career. Although student loans has been said to be one of the things that's a good debt if you can afford to pay it off in a timely manner. Okay, so student loans can be good and bad. I like to think that they are overall that they are good. To move you up in the economic ladder of the United States or the world, student loans can be a valuable add value to your life. Okay. Now, one thing that could help offset these student loans is saving for college. You can save yourself. You don't have to wait for your parents to maybe save for you. Maybe your parents can't save for you. But in any case, if you can do things that you can put monies aside for your savings, okay, and use those funds to offset these student loans. Uh, my parents weren't. My personal experience is my parents weren't able to pay college expenses, so I did have financial aid, and I worked to pay the balance of my college tuition. Okay, so I would go to school during the daytime and work at night, but in any case, saving for college is something that you can do. For the parents, there are such things as 529 saving plans or education savings account, the Coverdales, or just a regular. Maybe you might get some kind of gift from parents or relatives. In a UGMA, a Uniform Gift to Minor account.
Or you could do the gift of the lifetime, if you start young with children, the gift of the lifetime life insurance policy.
So yes, there are mechanisms to save for college. All right, and if you all are asking that, then maybe you should also be speaking to your parents about what has been set aside for my college expense or your college expense, and I think it's an excellent goal for kids to matriculate beyond high school, but it's something that student loans can be a drag. Now, one thing I want to say about credit, okay? I always, from my experience, I tell people that your credit precedes you.
Mm-hmm.
And what do I mean by your credit precedes you? Well, if you've done the things that that have been against what we've talked about, like monitoring your budget, monitoring your spending, not getting into debt, okay, paying late on your monthly bills, reneging on paying bills or defaulting on paying bills. Okay, everything gets collected on from a financial standpoint. Everything gets collected at a credit bureau, and your credit bureau maintains a database of your habits, your capabilities, your expenses, and so forth. And so employers look at that. Even nowadays, your insurance companies are looking at it to determine what your rate will be.
For driving.
Okay, for having a driver's license, or
For-
giving you insurance, and buying a house,
Everything.
getting things. So pretty much everything. I mean, that's why I say your credit precedes you. I've done interviews of financial advisors coming to work for me, and one thing we do is we look at their credit report, look at their criminal report, and so forth. And when we see that the credit is in such bad array, that's a indication of what your character is like. Okay, so if your character is such that you overspend, or you're not disciplined of paying back your bills in a timely manner, that will say something about your work habits. Okay, and so be aware of these kind of things. But let's see.
Last question.
Okay, well, last question asked. Okay.
So the one question that was asked was, what's the difference between a debit card and a credit card? A debit card is tied to your bank account, and that is your money. Those are your funds. A credit card is money extended to you from the bank or the credit union where you have received that money. So if you have $500 in your account and you are using a debit card and you're going to purchase something that's $520, that purchase will be declined because you don't have that money in your account. A credit card, if you have $1,000 credit, when you go to purchase, you purchase all the way up to $1,000. Now, one thing about credit, you really should not go higher than 70% of your credit limit. So if your credit limit is $1,000, you should try to keep that balance no higher than $700. Ideally, if you can, pay your credit cards off. Get in a habit of paying your credit cards off monthly. There are sometimes you have circumstances, an emergency, something's happened to your car, and you don't have all that money. That's a good time to use credit. But a good practice is to get in only using your credit if you can pay those things off for the things you want. If it's something you need and you don't have the money, then you could, it's okay to go ahead and use that. So it looks like we're wrapping it up. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your Saturday morning.
Great.
Ed and I really appreciate sharing information with you. And I want to make sure that we've covered all the questions. Are there any more questions? There's a lot of material, and we will be hopefully doing some of these again and giving a little bit more time and doing a deeper dive. Any more questions? Oh, you are so welcome, Chance. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to turn it back over to Krista.
Well, thank you all for joining us today. This has been an excellent conversation. This is the second of our 2 webinars this morning, one geared towards middle school students and one geared towards high school students on money management. I hope you all have learned a lot. For those of you that joined later, we will send out the recording. Feel free to share it with whomever you'd like. So thank you again. I hope you all had a great time and enjoy your day. Thank you.